Hello.
Welcome to everyone. As Carol said, we're feeling the cool weather closing in. So getting settled and closing your eyes. Adjusting your posture if you need to. Observe the breath. Nothing you really have to do to it. Just be aware. Be aware of your breath. Noticing the rate, the rhythm, the continuity. Do you have any pauses in the breath? Just let that effort go and allow the breath to flow continuously. If there are any parts of your body that are not being breathed, meaning you're holding, or then if so, allow the breath to flow throughout your body. Allow the inhalation and its effects to reach all the corners of your torso and your limbs and your head. And now follow the breath with your attention from the lower tip of your spine up to the crown of your head as you inhale, and then back down on exhalation. And notice what effect that has. Notice how you feel internally as you do that. And though we are sitting still, allow the spine to respond to the breath. You may feel on inhalation a very slight lengthening of the spine upward, and perhaps on exhalation, just a hint of the reverse. Not something you need to do, it's just something you might allow. Allow your exhalation to extend itself and continue by just exhaling a bit more slowly. Then allow your inhalation to be spontaneous, as deeply as it wants to be. So just imagine this as a partnership. You're doing the exhalation, meaning you're just slowly stretching it out so it goes a little longer and a little longer. And then when the body's ready to inhale, it will do so, and you allow that. So I am exhaling, and my body is inhaling when it's ready and wants to. And this is very helpful for people who might have noticed some interruption between inhalation and exhalation, or exhalation and inhalation. It helps the continuity of the breath. You might say we are applying a touch of tapas to the exhalation. And then allowing the spontaneity of inhalation, spanda. And tapas being containment, just containing the exhalation a bit so that it's longer. Not really anything we do, it's just we don't exhale as fast. And if you wish, you can add the mantra Soham to that. So on exhalation and hum on inhalation. Once you feel that breathing pattern is stable, established, you can shift your attention upward to the point between the nostrils. And follow that line upward on inhalation toward the point between the eyebrows. And back down on exhalation to the point between the nostrils. You can still use the mantra Soham here if you wish. And gradually you can let your attention come to rest on the point between the eyebrows. And as your attention settles there on the point between the eyebrows, you might wish to let the Soham go and instead substitute Om as you focus on the point between the eyebrows. Om. Om. Silently. And letting the sound Om become more definite, more pronounced, silently pronounced. This point is sort of its home base for Om. If you do that for a while, you might feel a certain intensity at that point. And you can continue to work with the breath being longer on exhalation, containing it a bit so that it lasts longer and longer. Even as you focus on that point and on the sound Om. If your attention wanders, of course, bring it back. Back to the point between the eyebrows, back to the sound of Om. Back to the breath. and allow yourself to melt into that point in that sound. Now slowly begin to allow your attention to drift down a bit from that point between the eyebrows on exhalation. Inhaling back up to that point between the eyebrows. And begin the process of retracing your steps from the point between the eyebrows down, exhaling down, inhaling back up, exhaling down toward the point between the nostrils. And taking your time, gradually establishing that pathway from the point between the eyebrows down to the point between the nostrils. And once that entire trajectory is vivid in your awareness, you can begin to release the upper point and let your attention drift down to the point between the nostrils, gradually settling there. And then from that point between the nostrils, we're going to follow through the nasal passageways, through the nasal pharynx, down into the chest to the heart center. Again, exhaling back up. Inhaling down, inward and downward and backward to the heart. Until we have a secure footing there at the heart center. Then you can begin to release the point between the nostrils. Letting your attention come to rest on the heart center. And the sound there is yum. Once you've established a presence at the heart center, you can begin to extend that awareness out to the right, out to the left, up to the top of your head, down toward your feet, but remaining anchored at the heart center. And when you're ready, you can begin to move a little bit your fingers, your toes, your head. Slowly, gently, returning to awareness of the world around you. And when you're prepared, you can begin to bring your hands, palms cover your eyes, letting your eyes relax in that contained dark space. And then when you're ready, you can let your hands begin to float down to your lap, keeping your gaze fixed on your palms until you're ready to look around. And you can take a moment to bring your thoughts back to our connection here on the internet. And when you're ready, if you have any comments or sharing about your experience or questions or anything, you can just unmute yourself and speak up.
Swami Radha, I had a question. You mentioned tapas and Spanda, and we spent a good time in Agna. I'm wondering if you could speak a bit about the relationship between tapas and Spanda and the inner marriage.
80%.
Of course. Well, we think of tapas, which is containment. So in this exercise of breath, we were kind of containing the exhalation gently and slightly to slow it. It's not anything forceful. It's really more of an issue of not doing than it is doing. So I'm not breathing fast. I'm just containing that impulse to exhale and letting the exhalation be slower. So the containment of tapas is actually what we use as a way of supporting and encouraging the spontaneity. Our inherent tendency is to be governed by habit. And the habit, whether it's breathing or things you say or things you do in the world, our habits sort of preempt our creativity. So being occupied with habits doesn't leave much room for the creativity of spontaneity. Because that which is spontaneous is that which arises on its own and just surprises us in the world with something unplanned or something new, something refreshing. But that can't happen if we're busily allowing our habits to occupy center stage all the time. So we contain the habit. And as we do that, we make room for the spontaneity to occur. And that's, you might have noticed that in the breath, that when you contain and then allow the breath to do what it wants to when it wants to, there's a kind of exhilaration and refreshing experience of the breath. So that's we tend to think of the spontaneity as an aspect of our Shakti nature. You could say our feminine side, you could say our left side, left nostril, left nadi, Ida. And we think of the containment as being an aspect of the masculine, the husbanding, the containment, and that's more part of the Pingala, the right nostril. That's part of the left brain, and the more active side of ourselves. So paradoxically, tapas is not a very active process. It's actually more of a not doing. It's a declining to do, meaning declining to follow the habit and wait and get out of the way for Spanda to express herself in whatever way she feels is appropriate at the moment. And that is not something that our Shakti aspect of our being has to plan or contrive. It's totally allowing the universal energy to express an act of creation, which we don't know what it's going to be. And nor does she, but she doesn't need to. So that's a birthing quality to that. That has a birthing quality to that. Because each time there's a birth, something totally new appears on the earth. And that's what makes life interesting and exciting and lively, alive. So this is a dance between her and him, a dance between the Spanda and the tapas, a dance between the right and left, a dance that we call the intermarriage. Well, that relationship between the two is the intermarriage. I mean, it may not be a marriage yet, but just a dance between them. And for it to become an actual marriage, there has to be a kind of collaboration, a kind of mutual support that brings them into a unity of function, even though they're still distinct impulses or distinct aspects of our nature. Does that help? That's the question.
Yes, thank you.
Good. Thank you for the question. It's all in the breath. Whatever you're trying to figure out, it's all in the breath. It's all
I could ask one follow-up?
In the breath. And it can be worked with through the breath, because we're breathing all day long and all night long. And that is either supporting spontaneity, or that's a breathing habit that thwarts spontaneity. Any other comments, questions, sharing? Need I say, sharing is a charitable act. It's very generous if you share your questions and your experiences with others, because then we all learn so much more.
So, Swami Ravi, I have a question.
Yes.
As we move into fall here in the Northern Hemisphere, is there
Go ahead.
Is there something that we should be aware of in our meditation practice, or something that we should focus on as we change seasons?
You can, but consistency in meditation is very helpful. It's very helpful to have a practice that you repeat enough so that it really becomes settled, established. And then when you sit, you go there and it's vivid. At first it isn't. You're sort of blurry, but as it becomes more vivid in terms of visualizations or sounds or feelings or whatever the vividness is for you, then you're at a place where you can learn more from it and build on that and go to other places. So a consistent practice is great, but it's just like everything else. If it becomes rote or mechanical, then we're stuck in a habit.
Mm-hmm.
And so we need to make room for Spanda. And so yes, there can be variations that maybe respond to the seasonal change, or may respond to something else. So you have to decide, is this, am I just avoiding the intensity of focus and establishing a clarity, or have I done enough of that? And now it's time to open up for something new. Mm-hmm. That's a tricky decision, but it's always an experiment. So you try it and see what happens. And you might go, no, I think that was a mistake. I was getting somewhere. I'm gonna go back to that. Or you say, wow, that really opened things up. And that's all part of learning how to live in the meditational space and how to best use your time and how to explore more effectively. Does that help at all?
It does. Thank you.
Good. Thank you.
Swami Ravi?
Yes.
Is Andrew Futterman on audio?
Yes, I hear you.
Good. This is a sharing kind of leftover, I guess, from a few weeks ago from a satsang that was conducted.
Okay. That's
And,
fine.
huh?
That's fine, yes. Continue.
Folks were commenting on what they enjoy most about the meditation, or different aspects of it that were pleasurable. And for me, I wanted to share that during the meditations, there's a moment when all the bodily twitchings and whatever calms down, and then I'm aware of just being in my body, no movement, no nothing, other than the mantras that are going on and the guided meditation. And that's the most pleasurable thing for me, is that shift. And I've been wanting to share this, but what also happens is as I deepen into the practice of that particular time or that day, I get very silent. And there's so many things I would want to share, but then I don't want to speak. I want to stay silent. So I thought I would just share this, and if there was any commentary you might want to make around just silence.
We're just getting snatches of what you're saying, and then it disappears, and then it comes back. And so I'm trying to piece together a little more about your comment. Maybe you can say some more so I can understand better.
Well, I've done some silence periods in the past, and it seems, again, when it comes time to sharing it at the end of our hour, I've been kind of silent in my mantras and meditation, and I don't want to share. I don't want to speak. I just wondered if there was anything you might want to say about just being silent. Not quite clear of a question. Huh?
You just wondered if there was, say that again?
If there was something possible to talk about just being in silence, since I don't want to speak after the practice.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, and I understand. Yeah, it definitely, this is not a very optimal way to function, to meditate and then ask people for questions and comments, because it is a time after you complete your meditation when it's natural to want to kind of be with that space and be with the silence and absorb what happened. And I totally understand that. And I think that's something that we should always respect. But in this format, with this sort of tenuous connection that we have, this is the way we sort of have to do it. But it is not optimal to be asking people to share right after a meditation. Though, you know, sometimes it does help to articulate what you experienced. And, you know, it may not feel like, well, I don't want to talk about it right now, but it actually sometimes consolidates the experience for us when we speak about it. Sort of like writing down a dream when you wake up. You know, it's still there, and you can say, "Oh, yeah." So there's some value to it, even though it doesn't feel very natural.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's good.
Thank you for that comment.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Swami Ravi, this is Robert Seelig.
Yes.
I'm curious about guess this is sort of two questions. One is, throughout my day, thoughts go through my mind which are not serving me. Lots of sort of, I'm not good enough and things. So I'm wondering about, in addition to having a regular meditation practice, whether to have shorter meditations to sort of cleanse those thoughts so that I can be more productive and not at the effect of those negative thoughts. And my second question is there something in terms of either breath or meditation which can be activating? Because again, I want to be doing more. I find myself not as productive as I want during the day. And is there things that can help me either through breath or other activities to bring up my
Yeah,
activity?
great. That's a great question. Yeah, so it's interesting because I think meditation, the process, the actual practice of sitting and paying attention to what's happening internally, it sort of throws into relief to makes more clear the negative thoughts that we have. You know, it's like, wow, look at that. Where did that come from? And that's very disruptive. Whereas it might just be, without the meditation, it might just be something that happens and we kind of push it out of our awareness, but it keeps affecting us subconsciously. So you're seeing it clearly is really a powerful step toward being able to do something about it. You know, I like this old-fashioned term that nobody uses anymore called mental hygiene. And that's sort of, you know, people don't use the word hygiene at all anymore, hardly, like wash your hands or whatever. But there is, people used to talk about this like, I don't know, 75 or 100 years ago about mental hygiene. And it's like, okay, so if a thought comes up and it's clearly not helpful and you don't want to keep thinking it, then you need to deal with that. You need to take action. You need to say, oops, there comes that thought. No, I'm not, just like we do in meditation. I hear the thought, I'm going to let it float past. I'm not going to engage it. And that means it begins to lose its power. It begins to lose its intensity because because you're not wrestling with it, you're not trying to suppress it, you're not trying to argue with it. You're just simply saying, oh yeah, there that is, but I'm not going to engage with that thought. And it gets, just like in meditation, if we let those things go by, we don't engage with them, they get weaker and they fade gradually. So the same thing happens in waking time too, or, you know, regular daytime activities. If it comes up and I go, no, I'm not interested in you, sorry, then after a while it loses its power, because its power comes from our engaging with it energetically, meaning we argue, or we resist, or we begin to say, oh, I'm a victim of this thought that keeps coming. Why does it do that? You know, all those reactions actually give it more energy, and then it becomes even more prominent. So it's kind of like ignore it and it'll go away. But ignoring it is not as easy as it sounds, but it is possible. And we learn to do that in meditation as things come up and we say, okay, just let it float by. Hi, keep going. Next, next, next. Rather than, you know, engaging with it. So that is a process of mental hygiene. If you do that regularly, those things can gradually be cleared away and get them out of, you know, that they fade. They have to be recharged with, you know, people used to call it libido, or you know, psychic energy. You have to recharge it and keep it strong to keep it strong. But if you ignore it, it gradually dissipates. Does that help answer your question? Oh, are you muted?
It answers the question about the negative thought about not engaging, but also, do you have an answer towards how to sort of increase energy, that when I sort of feel lethargic, am not getting things done, and I want to be more energized during the day? Or
yeah, well, they are related, because the more you struggle with that kind of thought that uses a lot of energy, And then, you know, it's exhausting. It's actually exhausting. So you feel like, oh, I don't want to do anything because I've used up all my energy with this inner war I'm carrying on with these thoughts. So you have to become a pacifist and say, I'm not going to fight with you.
Okay.
I'm saving my energy for other things. Thank you. Bye. And actually, that's half a joke because that's a little too much engagement with it. But yeah, they are related. And there are other things that we're going to be talking about to increase your energy. Yeah. And that gets back to things like, do I get outside and exercise? Do I get sunshine? You know, all the things we need as human beings to be healthy and vibrant. And so many of those things can kind of fall out of our routine. And then we think, wow, I just feel sort of down. But then we think, well, when's the last time I walked outdoors? When's the last time I got some good exercise? When's the last time I got out in the sunshine? And, you know, all these things that we need as human beings and a human body are not negotiable. You know, we suffer if we don't get them, you know, which means we need fresh air, and we need sunshine, we need water, clean water, we need rest, we need good quality food that's alive and not dead. I mean, I had someone that I work with, and she was having some health problems and couldn't eat. She said, I just don't have any appetite. And I said, well, I think you should try vegetable broth. And she said, oh yeah, I have some of that. And I said, what do you mean? She said, you mean in a carton or in a can? And she said, yeah. I said, no, that's not going to do it. You need the aliveness of fresh produce. And fortunately, she lives right next door to someone who's an organic farmer. I said, you get fresh things and you just cook them down a little bit and then strain it and drink that broth. And she did, and she felt so much better. I mean, that was like aliveness. So we need, even if we can't eat food, we need the vitality that good quality food can offer our bodies, whether it's broth or juices or whatever, but not canned and frozen, and you know, and you need the aliveness of it. So these are all things we need. If we don't get them, we start feeling lethargic and depressed. And then, you know, we wonder, well, what's wrong with me? It's like, you know, you're in a body. These are the things you need if you're going to live on the planet in a human body. You can't skip it, you know.
Thank you.
There's not a pill to take so that you don't need that. Well, it doesn't work that way. Okay. Great. Thank you, Robert, for those questions. Anybody else? Where are we with time? Oh, 8:12. I think we're running out of time. So I'm going to turn this over to Carol and let him maybe make some announcements and so forth.
Thank you so much, everyone, for attending this evening, and see us next week. Don't know yet what that's going to be, as usual. So we'll certainly send out an announcement with what the event will be, what the program will be. So we wish you a good week, and if you would, unmute and we'll say goodbye. And thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Good to see you all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Bye.
Thank you.